if this song, to be willing to march into hell for the heavenly cause, and I don't know the other words.
Let's play ball.
You know,
you got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that.
My man.
Boom.
I tell you what. There we go. You know, I hear that car thing again. You know, what's it going to take to get you into this car? I was on a call yesterday, and we were talking about sales. I was trying to help somebody, and we talked about closing, and I used the Victor Antonio line. Remember that? He has a special close. Victor said something really cool.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, and I've heard this before, but it sounded better coming from Big Vic. He's a good looking man. It was a Bruce Lee quote, and it was like, I'm not scared of the guy who has 10,000 kicks. He goes, I'm scared of the guy that has one kick and has practiced it 10,000 times. And so his close that he uses is the same one every time. And he says, you know, is there any reason why we shouldn't do business today? Just something like that. And I was sharing that as a good way to close for this particular person and their style. And he said to me, you know, when I hear that, it sounds like you're trying to sell me a used car. And or he said, you sound like a car salesman. And for some reason, people think that's bad. I mean, I have the greatest respect for car salespeople. But I asked him, I said, hey, just a question. Do you own a car? You know, so I guess it worked, you know? And so, I mean, that's the thing. People are afraid of all that stuff.
Speaking of afraid, you got to break it down in layman's terms, right? I mean, if you're talking to a used car salesman, you've got to leverage and break it down in layman's terms, because Doug Lehman's afraid of you. And Lord Tinney of Buckhorn is in the house. Thank you for being with us. Amazing author and salesman in and of himself. Is that really a thing? He's
really incredible.
Yeah.
You know, Patrick Tinney is not that I would, you know, it's like when you talk about your kids, if you're laudable to one child, it's like they feel like the other one's being dismissed.
Right.
So I don't want to dismiss Doug Lehman, even though he's scared of me, Dan. He can't handle the Deej. That's the problem. You know, that's the whole issue.
We're pulling out all the movie quotes. Stu Heineke's in the house. Speaking of amazing sales trainers and authors as well. How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. Pick up that book.
He's a monster. Well, you know what? And that, you know, we were talking about Stu Heineke is one of the reasons why our next guest. You know, sometimes there's people that reach a level that you think you can't find, you can't connect with, you know, they're just at that point, and you're almost a little squeamish about doing it, but there are ways. And it's sometimes one day you'll just wake up in the morning and realize that you know everybody eats sardines once in a while. I don't know why I said that, but it's like everybody has gotten yelled at by their wife for opening up a can of sardines in the house and stinking up the place. And so just everybody's human is what I'm trying to say. And so magic of all magic, a good friend of the team here, just gave me a call one day and he says, listen, I think we can get a hold of this next guest. And we had all these kind of like secret meetings on how to do it. And lo and behold, turns out literally the nicest guy on the planet, the most giving human being you'll ever meet, one who really wakes up in the morning and wants to make his environment and all the people that he meets a little bit better. And he's a super man. And I can't believe after this time that he's coming on Dan Jordan Live here. And we're so pleased that Lou and Stu and Doug and Patrick and everybody else is here to do it. So please help me welcome my new best friend, Mr. Tommy Schaff. Woo-hoo!
Hey, I'm so thrilled to be here, and I'm still wondering why you think I stick up my house with sardines. I just don't get it. Why would such a nice guy open sardines? Come on.
Here's the thing. This is in mid sentence, I had to change because my first thing that came to my head is you realize that everybody wipes their tuchus, and I didn't want to say that about you, and so I went to the sardines. You gotta flip on a dime. You gotta flip on the dime there. But I think I should, Chris Stone, before we even get going here, bring on the person who made this all possible for us all to be hearing from the master. And so if you could bring on everybody's friend, Mr. Joe Miller.
Look at this guy.
Come on, Joe. There you go.
Dan, we forgot to put our first. Joe, you brought up.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? This is called, this happens, Tommy, this happens to the best of us. Sometimes you're on a sales call and everything goes wrong. How do you deal with it? Oh, look who's here. Joe Miller in the house.
That's funny. So was that a question or what are we doing?
I'm going to ask you, what do you do when things go all kaput?
I don't know. What happened?
Let's say you're on a sales call and a fly lands on your nose.
I think I would say, hey, I was with a guy who farted. We were at a sales call. I'm telling you.
We're talking.
He did. And I think what you do is you say, have you ever had one of those days and you just you got to own your farts? That's a quote probably in the name of my first book. I think this is going to be big.
Own your farts. It's now trending on X. Used to be Twitter.
That took 4 minutes to get to 7th grade potty humor right there. Like,
only the best here. Hey, I want to share, Joe Miller. Why don't you tell us what was your in the spirit of Stu Heineke and getting a meeting with anybody? How did you go ahead and find and reach out to our friend here, Tommy?
Well, this all started with a book. This all started with The Ultimate Sales Machine, which was written by Chet Holmes. Well, Tommy worked for Chet Holmes. I didn't know that at the time. But he has a strategy called the Dream 100. And I said, all right, let me dig more into. I'd read the book and I read the chapter several times. I said, let me see if anybody else is out on LinkedIn, on YouTube doing this. And then I found Tommy Schaff. And then I went, oh, I really like this guy. He's got some great ideas. And I start looking at the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. I went, why don't we call him and see if we can get him on the show? Because his methodology is different. And I think some people need different today versus just picking up the phone or sending an email. It's old. It's old, man. And Tommy's got great ideas. And he really condensed the whole Dream 100 thing down. I'll let him go at it. He's much better. He's much better to explain it than I am. That's where it started for me. There was the Dream 100.
Yeah, I'll give you some Tommy, feedback on why it came. Yeah. So Joe sent me a video in LinkedIn. It was short. It was earnest. It was in color, black and white. Never saw anything like that before. And I said, sounds like a good dude. Let's do a pre-call to see if there's a good match. And so that's why I'm here today. He did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So on the podcast that I've seen in the past, you worked with Chet Holmes, who's he has name recognition as being the way he can kind of get a hold of anybody. His persistence is renowned of what he did there. How did you hook up with him, and tell us the story of where that led to?
Well, big picture, I had a friend that worked with them. They had some deals that they did not have the technologies or the ability to vend. When there were certain brand name companies into it, Costco, Elavon, Bathfitter, large multinational, large companies, they didn't have the firepower at the time. And so they would call up and say, hey, we got this one. Would you like to take it on? And then I would create a play to fit that. I often sparred with Chet. I didn't always agree with him. I was always thankful for him. He got leukemia in March 2011. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and he had to take care of himself. He asked me to step in for him and do the strategy projects, run some of the big programs, and speak after Tony, our business master around the world. Candidly, I screwed the first one up. So before we try to put me on as master of anything, I'm going to tell you the first time talking behind Tony Robbins was a turd. I did not crush it. I was lost. I was not accustomed to being translated in 7 languages at the same time, people laughing at the wrong spots, and I got all mixed up. It took me an hour to settle down. To my appreciation of Tony and Chet, they were kind. They said, you're our guy, but you got to get in a minute where you got in an hour. And so we worked that out, and it was formative. As such, my payback is I've been a coach and a mentor advisor to Chet's daughter since he passed. Chet died August 12th, 2012. And so I've been a friend of the family for a long time. And if you're listening, Amanda, I still love you. So that's where we're at.
I think it's great that you said, I went and did this and failed. And it was a turn.
I did.
And I think a lot of people need to hear that. And you don't hear that a lot. You hear everyone talking about all of the success, and they don't talk about reps 1, 2, 3, however, to get to that point. So I'm glad that you went there. I think a lot of times people need to hear that, because the perfection or the, things that you've amassed don't happen overnight, right?
Well, I mean, candidly, so thank you for acknowledging that. And that isn't like humility, that's science. When you want to establish your expertise, you don't tell people you're great. You tell people the problem. You tell people the mistake. You tell people the objection. You don't handle objections. You bring objections to the front. If you have a challenge, a problem, you're too small to serve them. You don't wait till the end and hope they don't notice. You say, hey, listen, before we go, do you mind if I throw the challenge up? I'm going to be small. I don't have a national platform. So whatever is true, I think you admit to that so you get a credibility frame. And when we have the credibility frame, we can build truth onto that people will acknowledge and believe. I think that lots of people want to tell all of their great stories. I was born on third base, thought I hit a triple. Nobody wants to hear that story. But the truth is, most lives are messy. If you wanted to look at mine, I can tell you all my great stories. And I like those. They're not true. They start with, there was a lot of struggle. There were hard times. Every entrepreneur I know, and most people want to sell an entrepreneur. Most people want to sell a corporate executive. Most people don't go straight lines. Billionaires get fired. Billionaires go bankrupt. People have struggles. Until you have a few scars on your wrists, from getting burnt a couple times, you don't know anything. Good judgment based on experience based on bad judgment. Do stupid things, learn from them. And so if I know anything, it's because I've done a lot of stupid things.
Yes, and by doing stupid things, you reach different levels. You can't see the end of the cliff you can't see the valley there until you get to the end of the cliff. And so you got to get to that spot and make those mistakes. I see all the baseball memorabilia behind you.
Yeah.
Is baseball just a passion, or did you play? What's the story, and how'd you get involved in that?
Well, my baseball starts in Manda, North Dakota, where I was called Tommy Take One for the team. I might have been the worst baseball player of all time. I did make up with that. I was the only kid that had any money because I had a paper out for 100 and some papers. I'd buy their older brothers' baseball collections. I amassed 25,000 baseball cards. As an early adult, I got involved with a business venture that did not go well the first time I tried something out. And I got myself in a lot of debt. I sold all my cards to pay for it, did singing telegrams for 2 years at night to pay for off that debt. I decided I really loved baseball. Later in life, I read a book that said, find out what made you weird when you're a kid and make a living doing it. My baseball was my weirdness. Now, I had a lot of other choices. I played accordion. I mean, we could go on with them. But I decided that I would brand for baseball, created Major League Sales, and took a look at the analogy, but not a great baseball player, not a great softball player. My distinction, I joined a team that won the state championship in North Dakota. I was 0 for 35, my first 35 at-bats. Then I was 36 for 36 for a little over 500. You could say I'm a little streaky.
What's your most prized baseball card?
I don't have any, so I don't collect them. What I do collect is I have bats. Those are in war order, nice. Hundreds of bats. I've got 6,684 bobbleheads next door in my office. My most prized possession is a ball signed by Jackie Robinson and Babe Ruth, the only one I know of in the world.
Wow.
So, and how do you use that passion to get more clients or to creatively think of ways to get more clients? Like what has that led to?
Well, I've decided that I really like baseball, so I do stuff. So I have a bucket list that has 162 baseball items in it because there's 162 games. What this has allowed me to do is make all of my baseball tax deductible because it's called marketing. Look at all my marketing. My big thing, though, that you might be hinting at is I had a dream. I played at Field of Dreams in 2013, and there were 16 superstars, 14 Hall of Famers, a couple that were great but not Hall of Famers. And at the end of playing, I said, this is the most fun that I had. I had never had that kind of fun before. And I said to myself, why don't I have more of this? Why am I not doing these kinds more often? And it was after I traveled the world for a couple of years with Tony on behalf of Chet. And I said, the reason was I didn't have enough money and I didn't have enough time. And it was in that day that I said, I'm going to have more money and more time. And I changed my trajectory. I made Major League Sales. I actually kicked off Major League Sales at the Field of Dreams. I became an owner of the Field of Dreams. We had Charlie Sheen and the cast of Major League Sales come in and played on his 52nd birthday on Labor Day, and that was the birth of Major League Sales. And so now I use the analogy, and it's called the 5-Tool Sales School, where we learn to pitch. We learn how to defend, protect the business that we have. We learn how to get on base, hit for power, shorten the sales cycle. We learn how to have speed, and speed is about trust. So like when Chris pointed out, be like, hey, thanks for telling the truth on yourself. That's what speed is. If you want speed in sales, you don't lie. You don't hyperbolize. You don't add a very to everything. You don't say you're number one. What you do is you earn the right. You get respect. You give a damn if anyone likes you. You say, this is my people. This is who I serve. And that's what Major League Sales does.
That's interesting because typically you would think speed means like do everything you can to enhance your credibility, right? But what you're talking about is not that at all.
I am totally talking about that. When we know someone is credible is when they tell their truth. Why don't we think that politicians are credible? How do we know they're lying? They're talking. When we actually say, wouldn't it be great if a politician said, listen, I'm a bad person, but I'm less bad than the other idiot. Wouldn't that be like, we'd be like, I can see that. Speed is about truth. Speed is about candor. You want to sell faster? Slow down to sell faster. Start with dropping your earpiece. That always works great. As I stretch underneath, I will do this with, I'm the one-eared wonder. What we want to do is we want to tell the truth on ourselves. because that may take a little bit of time, but it gets through the posturing. It creates authority. Your authority is not, you don't be in authority, right? You're not the authority. You have authority. Authority isn't afraid of their truth. I went through a self-development seminar some years ago. And in this idea of this development, the idea was everybody has a shadow. So instead of letting it follow you, put it in front of you where you can keep an eye on it. Your truth, your hiccups, you're bankrupt in your future. Don't lose at the end. And someone says, well, I see you had a bankruptcy. Put that on the front. I know a speaker had a chance to talk to him in this office. And he said, I had a FINRA problem. And even though the people that supposedly filed it, they actually testified on my behalf, but I was a political target by a previous presidential administration. And he said, so I went to prison for 9 years. This guy said, I went to prison for 9 years. You kill people and you get less time. And he said, when people find out that, it's kind of bad. And he said, so I started speaking, and I found when I talked to CEOs about what happened, and I just started, and I said that, like, hey, listen, I need to tell you something. I've been to prison and I served 9 years. You don't want to Google me, because when you Google me, that's what you're going to find out. I said, that's the name of your book. Don't Google me. Please don't Google me. You write, please don't Google me. You'll be the first speaker at every business seminar in the world.
Yep.
Like, do not run from your truth. You want to sell large deals? Large deals, people do diligence. You know how I can trust you? That you tell the problem.
Yes.
I used to be afraid of stuff. In the 6th grade, I went from Catholic school to a public school. And there was a Catholic organization called Columbian Squires. And my mom and dad said, you should join Columbian Squires. I said, I'm not going to get in. I changed school. They're mad at me. And they said, no, you'll get in. Everyone gets in. I said, no, I'm not going to get in. I was the first person not to get in that club. Now, that is not a resume builder exactly. I was so embarrassed I couldn't tell my parents. I wouldn't tell my parents. I went with my dad to the Knights of Columbus Club every night for 6 months and ran off to the library and then came back. And then one day an adult saw me and they said, are you telling your parents you're in this club? And I'm like, yeah. Then they made the kids take me. I'm sure can you just imagine how great this was? I'm here to tell you that was an awful experience, but I am here to tell you that when I got in and it wasn't better, they wanted to sentence me to a project, and they said, buy a camera. And I did this study. I drove my bike 7 miles to Bismarck. I researched. I came in, and they're like, the nerd did something. Fast forward from 7th grade to junior and senior, I'm the state president and won every national award they have. What I learned is it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Sales are like that. You can start bad. First question was, what do you do when things don't go well? What you do is you own it and you move on, or you find somebody new. I don't know. That's what I think.
Well, now you help, I guess, wealth builders or people, financial planners and people like that to find high net worth individuals and do more business. First of all, you've been very successful with helping people do that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how, for someone getting started and for people always want to, let's say there's 5 or 6 or 10 top people that you're trying to get a hold of to do business with. How do you start somebody out on that path to go after that type of person or that type of
It's
company?
a great question. And by the way, so I work with private equity firms and I work with PayPal and I work with a lot of things, and I do have a niche with financial advisors. But since you asked about financial advisors, I'll take that on. I think the best advice I got was the advice that my brother-in-law, the priest, gave me. He's at the Vatican right now. He's the head of apostolic formation at the North American Seminary. When I get married in the middle of the Catholic Church, there's a message, and he said, there once was a man who was looking for the perfect woman, and when he found her, unfortunately, it wasn't him. She was looking for the perfect man. I think that sometimes we look for the perfect prospect, but we have to look in the mirror and say, who are you? Like when I was single, Victoria Principal was high on my list, but sadly I wasn't on hers. Well, there once were kids. There was a lady named Victoria Principal. So here's
and
this
Henny
point.
Youngman too, right?
She was unbelievable.
You got to start with, like, here's my point. You look for who you want, but the first thing I want to think about is the people that I want to serve most are the people that lose the most money because I'm not there. Not everyone needs me. Not everybody wants me. Hell, my wife likes me. I don't know if she always she always loves me. I don't know if she always likes me. So there you go. There she is. She was on my list. I wasn't on hers. Who knew? So this point is, how do you start? Truth. What is your power? What is your commitment? What is your passion, your ability, your technical knowledge, the partners, your network? What do you have to serve? And what sucks for somebody or something, some organization when you're not there? Now, if there's 350 million Americans, the 10 that are hurt the most by you not being there, however you define your market, that's where I'd start. Because if you can't get those, it doesn't matter. Now, the next thing I would look at is not all people are created equal. I've learned that consensus is a powerful tool. You are not known for your expertise. You're known for the clients that you serve. If you don't serve anyone that's doing anything important, your business doesn't matter to anyone and no one believes you're any good. I had one call closed today for a considerable amount. Why? Because in the financial world, 2 top advisors in the Mass Mutual organization were on a call with 2 other ones, and they dropped my name 5 times. And they said, I don't know who you are, but they say I got to talk to you. Then I had to spend an hour and a half finding out if they're a fit, because I don't want to break my record. Like, if you are my client, I'm going to vet you to make sure that you have the return, because I'm not looking for money. I'm looking for a difference. My brain mindset is I'm a difference maker. Who do I meet with? Difference makers. What's the purpose? It's not to get a sale. It's to make a difference. I'm going to make a difference or I'm not going to go. Now, if I think I can get the money, but I can't make a difference, that sounds great if you're broke. But if you're not broke, it costs you money. It costs you money not to deliver. It costs you money to feel like you're a charlatan. I don't want anyone that isn't going to get mine. I don't want anybody that I'm not going to serve. I'm a steward of my life. I'm a steward of my assets. I'm a steward of my clients. So I want to find out, what are their challenges? Are they ones that match up to the problems that I solve? I talk about the problems I solve, not the solutions I create. My evolution of my thinking was, instead of being a solution provider, that I'm a solution person. It's that I'm a problem finder. The problem that somebody gives you is never the problem they really have. So what do I think about? I think about finding problems, and the problem they give you is never the problem. I went to my doctor, and he had a coffee cup, and that coffee cup said, don't confuse your WebMD search with my Harvard MD. And I took a picture of that and said, let's get one of them coffee cups. Because, see, in our world of the internet where information is free and ubiquitous and it's everywhere, man. Like, people get on the internet and they go, rumbly tumbly, I think I have cancer. They go, doctor, I have cancer. Be like, no, you ate the wrong food. Like, how about you let me be the doctor, and I'll give you a diagnosis, but I have 3 steps. I'm going to do a physical, and then I'm going to do a diagnosis, and then I'm going to do a prescription. And if I don't have the expertise, I'm going to give you a prescription to somebody that does. That's selling. The challenge, prospects think they know everything. They think that the mind that created the problem can actually figure out the solution to the problem. And then they go out and say, dance, monkey boy, dance. Show me your stuff. Show me a presentation. That's more than we want to spend. They don't have a quantification of the problem. Sales is qualification. Now, I can present. I'm a Great American Speak Up finalist. I spoke after Tony Robbins on 3 or 4 continents. I can speak. I don't. Why? Because sales is not speaking. Over promise is speaking. I qualify. I am 1952. It is, we don't present. We qualify. We slow down, sell faster. Why? I'm going to leave a call and I'm going to decide if I'm going to take my assets of time, money, energy, information, self-esteem. I'm going to make sure that I only put those on my squares that I win. I don't present, dance up and down, have people say, I don't know if you're worth it. No, I go to people. And those people usually are the people that are doing the best. Now, everyone has a different call in life. There are different coaches. There are 6th grade coaches and there are high school coaches. Where I'm at today, I want to work with people that are successful already because they're easier to coach. They have business acumen. There's more things we can do. I want to create with my limited times that I've left in my life. I want to win and I want to make a difference. So the person that's struggling, like, I can't do this, well, great. There's other coaches for that. But I want to help people take money from this pile and put it in this pile, and then it makes a bigger difference. I don't want to fix. I want to make the problem optimization, not I'm clueless. We all have different things. You got to understand what's my place in life for the things that I've done with my life, the mistakes I've made in my life. Because the mistakes I've made in my life have given me a wisdom that is more valuable to people that are different than where I started 30 years ago. You know what does that mean? Does that make any sense?
Oh my gosh, this is golden.
It's so money, and we got some questions coming in here. And this is from Patrick Tinney. What's the biggest problem in sales that you see today?
Well, there's a bunch of them, and it depends on the context. There are some people that everybody's a prospect, so they don't know what their business is. There's some people that their problem is, do they go? If we looked at a baseball path, and first base was a suspect, and second base was a prospect, and third base was a qualified prospect. Like people come in and they call you up. They go to your social media. Here's what I think is among the biggest problems. We have so much media and so much marketing, so many podcasts, no offense. And we have so many ways to get our name out there. And then people raise their hands. And in corporate sales, the right person is never looking at any of this. A wrong person is. And a person calls you up and says, I heard about you. I saw this. I looked at your social media. I'd like to do a meeting. I'm really, really super duper interested. And then they expect a presentation of how you're going to solve their problem. And in the marketplace, most people give it. What a waste of time. Wrong person, no problem, don't understand context. So I call that, I ran across the pitcher's bound. And that's funny when you're a T-ball coaching your 4-year-old. It is really awful when you have 6 or 7-figure salespeople who don't understand that they lost their leverage by premature jubilation and pitching too early. Now, if you're doing big deals are interesting often. And the people that are at the biggest corporate America people probably aren't listening to this podcast. So people that are more, your individuals and smaller companies probably are more likely to be listening to this podcast. And they don't understand that when you go big, you can't go alone. When you win big and you go by yourself and you're the answer to every question, you look small, and small is scary to big. We go small for creativity and we go small for service, but we're worried about redundant. We're worried about, like, what happens if something happens to you? So they go and take all your stuff, and then they go to the big guy and then say, can you do this? And they say yes. And they don't get service and they don't get creativity. And they used you as column fodder to drive down the price of the knucklehead that was at the top that doesn't solve it. In the technology space where I help a lot of software people sell, 72% of all projects, according to Gartner, never get their return of investment, much less the return of investment. Why? We diagnose on the wrong problem and then we run to victory. Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve the world's problems, I spend 55 minutes defining the question. If we have the wrong one, the answer doesn't matter. Simply said, a problem defined as half solved. A problem well defined is half solved. Spend more time defining the problem. The problem they give you is never the problem. Have you ever watched House, team? Do you remember House, the old show?
Oh, yeah.
House is a cantankerous, acerbic pathologist. And he goes in and there's a problem.
Oh,
acerbic? We have to, anytime there's a good vocabulary word,
you get confetti for your vocabulary use, Tommy. Well done.
Okay, so I'm a giver. But here's the point of this, this note of this. The problem in every of the 200 episodes of House is never the problem. So he pinks, he goes, and then at the end, we realize it's something different every episode. Trivia question, by the way, spoiler alert, on this old show that you've never seen, what was the character House based on?
I have literally no idea. My sister would know.
Who was the greatest acerbic problem solver who always got the right answer that was an addict?
Are you talking about the House show that came?
Cicero? Socrates?
The medical doctor that solves the problems. It was on for 8 years. I think it was, there he is, Hugh Laurie. Yeah, he is Sherlock Holmes in a hospital.
Right.
The problem they give you, Sherlock, is never the problem. Go deep, understand, get underneath the hood, solve the problem. Don't go to solution, test problem, test additional hypothesis. You want your deals to close faster? Do you want them to be bigger? Do you want them to have higher margin? Chet Holmes, who we started this conversation, one of the most valuable things he ever did, he said to me, Tom, once, hey, what's your goal? I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to close this sale. And he goes, is that all? I go, what do you mean? He goes, are you going to preempt the competition? Are you going to commoditize your sale? Are you looking for the cross sale, the upsell, the next sale, the referral? Now, I don't know that he actually knew how to do that. He was a better marketer than a sales guy, but I decided I would be. And I decided that when I sell, getting the sale is the least important part of my problem. My problem is to make sure I create value so I keep getting paid forever. My problem is to make sure I deliver so much value that they send me to other people, and not because they like me. Here's an idea, folks. People do not refer you because they like you. When they do that, they give you their friends that aren't really important. But when they like their friends and you deliver the goods, they send you to the best prospects for themselves so their friends owe me one. I decided that I would be so extraordinary at what I did and only work in my lanes. So when I was done, people referred me, not because I had to ask them and say, I get paid one or two ways by the way I extract cash from you and the way I extract cash from your friends. Now, that's not what it was. You ever seen those people that put it in their signatures? I just want to punch them in the face. How did I get violent all of a sudden? You got me amped up.
I don't know.
I was the funny guy.
Dan has a way of doing that.
Chris Stone. No, I was about to say Chris Stone brings it out of you. That's exactly right.
It's Chris, damn it.
Yes, that's what it is.
I don't know. I have this tendency.
This is such money. So in other words, you have to find somebody's problem, but you also have to act like the person you'd like to be. So actually make me big for a second so we can go down and get his earphone, the poor guy. There you go.
Yeah, I got it now.
So, okay, good. There we go. So, how do you, so if knowing that, and I say that about objections, the first objection they give you isn't the real one either, but the first problem that they give you isn't the problem. How do you say dig deep. How do you dig deep?
Well, I think you first got to control the line of scrimmage. So at the beginning, you got to get an agreement how the meeting's going to go. And if you don't have an agreement on how the meeting's going to go, they'll fight for the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be dance for me, monkey boy. So we got to be like, hey, listen, I would love to help you. And I often say at the beginning, hey, listen, Dan, can I ask you ever been overpromised and underdelivered?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. You have any idea why?
Yeah.
How often have you come in with the problem and you gave it to them and then you didn't let them find the problem and then you were disappointed that they never solved it? Part of that is your process of buying. Now, I'm not trying to be argumentative, and I learned from being an over-promiser and an under-deliverer. It's because I didn't have the courage to say, this is my process, and when we do it, it works for all, and when they don't, it doesn't work for anyone. Are you okay if we take the majority of our time today, or I actually pinpoint and test the problem, make sure we're dealing with the right one? Because if we're not, none of my answers make sense. And, you know, in the history of mankind, I've never heard anyone say, yeah, that's a stupid idea. And now I get the chance to ask questions. If I have questions that perhaps are considered invasive, personal, that's difficult, and some of that was because I was uncomfortable. The questions I was uncomfortable asking scared people. I mean, when Doogie Howser says, take off your clothes the first time, you're like, that's a little weird. I'm freaking out. When an old guy says, hey, take off your clothes, like you'll be like, sure, like turn up the heat in this thing. Why is it so cold? Now here's so part of who we are creates our problems. The problems we get, we telegraph with our discomfort in doing it. I was up in Wisconsin, in Denmark, Wisconsin, and there was an anaerobic digester. They had 3 million pounds of cow guts. That's a bunch of crap. Now, listen, I went in there and I couldn't stomach it. And there was a guy eating a sandwich. I thought I was going to die. Now, here's the point. He's there every day. He's used to it. When you actually learn your business, saw a couple car crashes in your life, it doesn't freak you out anymore. When you actually screwed up some sales and you say, listen, we can do this. It isn't going to work. Here's how I do it. What do you want to do? We give them choices. We don't tell them, here are the choices. How do you want to do it? I give them 2 choices. The choice they think they want, I show why it's bad. The choice they don't think they want, and why it's good for them. They pick the second. If I can win the front, then I can do what I need to without pressure. Then I systematically take them through a process. My process stories. I think everyone's a movie. I think there's a movie in everyone, every situation. So I really looked at stories. It took me a lifetime to take all the synthesis. You steal one person's system, you're a thief. You research and learn everyone's system and say, here are themes, you're a researcher. I'm a researcher, which means I'm a thief. I stole everything. There's nothing new. I studied with everyone for 30 years and spent millions of dollars to do it. I simplified the front end to say, in baseball, if I can get to second base, that's called scoring position. That means that if I'm at second base and there's a legitimate drive, everyone except for the catcher and me are going to score. So I want to get to second base. People can't get to second base. They can't find a why. They can't create a business case. They make stuff up. We think challenger sale is the big idea. I'm a challenger sale. You talk the whole time. Stories is, what's your situation? What's your target and timeline? What's the objective? Like, what's the obstacle to getting to where you want to be that you hope I can help you with? They'll always be wrong. Then I say, you know what? That's not bad. And anyone can do that, though. When people that are in your situation with your business, the way you told me, and they work with me, it's because they have one of 3 problems you never gave me. Do you mind if I shortcut this and just tell you what they are? And then I give them the problem based on what they told me that I think is probably right. They usually grab all that. Then I got to kill the other guy. And sometimes that's them doing it themselves. In my head, I make a mental checklist of everything they should have done that I know nobody does. And then I tell them they did it. I say, Dan, Chris, Super Joe, hey, listen, when you did your analysis to come up with this, what did you come up with? We never did that. I just won a keychain at 6 Flags, hitting a hammer. And I say, hey, when you did this other thing, what happened? They say, oh, you know what? That's a good thing. I never thought of that. And then they write that down. And then, you know what? I get the little doll. And then I go, hey, when you did this thing, they go, We never did any of this. My advisor never did any of this. Can you help me? And then I go home with the 6-foot Pikachu that I got to strap on top of my car. I know that if I don't ask 3 bell ringer questions, they're going to hold on to their fraternity brother or the person from temple, synagogue, mosque, parish, congregation. They're going to stay with the person they hit little white balls on green grass. They're going to go with their professional eater. Most advisors, most salespeople, they're winer and diner and expense account professional eaters. If you were not trained how to sell before about 1984 or mentored by somebody who was, most people don't know how to sell. Why? Because something changed. In 1984, Macintosh came out, Apple came out, and all of a sudden, people could beat big companies working in their garage. In 2000, everyone had the internet, and then all bets were off. When that happened, employment went from, we joined IBM and worked there for 30. I was a co-op student at IBM and did a naked physical. They thought I might work there for 40 years. I've been moved. Before I learned what product I would sell, they sent me to 8 weeks of training to be a co-op student. And they never told me the product, goals, objectives, strategies, needs, features, advantages, reactions. I had more training by the time I was 20 than sometimes I go in a room and there are 30 people that are 50 years old. And I had more hours of role play than that whole room had in their life. That went away when employment went to, how long can I fake them out that I have something in my pipeline? And people went to 2-year cycles of employment. When things changed, when we didn't see people working a long time, we said, we're not going to teach them how to sell. We're going to teach them about our products. And then people didn't know anything, so they threw up on people and told them about their products. Let that go 20 years. I want you to get something. And all of you on this call are old enough, maybe not Chris, to understand, but we grew up in a world where there were telephones with cords, people. There were cords, and there were 12 feet. You couldn't even go to a separate room. We lived in a world where their dads were still there, and they were home after work, and they answered the phone, Schaff residence. And if you called the girl, you had to talk to the dad, which means most of us went to puberty really early as their voice cracked. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Schaff. Yeah. We hung up. I called girls, and I got so nervous that I finally figured it out. I would call them up, and then they'd say, hello, Mr. Schaff. Who's this? I'm Dan Jordan. I would use somebody else's name. I was so great when I was Dan Jordan, man. Now, here's this point. In a world where kids couldn't we had to call someone on a phone. We had to get through a parent. There were no texting. Today, you're on a hookup app. You get a hold of someone. You text each other forever. These same people now say selling is dead. Those old ways don't work. They're people that don't know how to talk. Bunch of kids that are having the highest level of anxiety and depression in the history of mankind are now informing us that social media is the key and leads are the key. And I'm telling you that if your prospect is coming through those channels, they're typically not the right person. And bots, AI, all of that is going to replace it. The top of the market is where the money is. 15% have 80% of the money, and they are not on social media trying to go to your webinar.
So how do you find them? Like, how do you reach out to them and differentiate yourself that you're not that 22-year-old schlub who's never kissed a girl?
George Bernard Shaw once said in the book Man versus Superman, popularized by Robert Kennedy, some men see things as they are, see things as they never were. You see a light bulb. I see an appointment. So what I do, I find somebody, and this is what my wife gave to me on my first anniversary. I've been married 29 years last week.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. The way I do that is I travel a lot.
How did she put up with you?
Confetti?
I travel a lot. Okay. Now here's this point. She knew that I loved Albert Einstein, so she put pictures of him. Beautiful. And she got a painter to do it. She put my core values. She put my favorite coat. And I cried when I got it. I was like, my wife loves me. She knows me. And then you know what happened? So I did 29 years. And I'm, overweight, so she can catch me when I run away. It's so weird. So here's this thing. I one day look at that thing, because it hasn't been far away from me for 29 years, to my office. And I think, I wonder if I painted a person's picture on that. And I wonder if I took their logos from their undergrad and their masters, if I took all the logos of their companies that they've worked with, president of a company, if I put their keywords that they say in speeches, maybe a quote, accomplishments, and I put change in it because that was a bank and you could shake it. So I would make jingle jangle, and I put it in an enormous box. And then I put so much blue confetti stuff on it so that when you pulled it out, it was a mess to take 5 people to clean up. And then I put so much tape on it, just like that. And then I put all this tape on it so that it would take like a crowbar and that thing that you use to open up a car in a car crash, the jaws of death or whatever, jaws of life. They'd cut that. And there'd be this assembly of 4 or 5 people waiting for da, 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 da. And then the emergence, Lion King. And then it'd be like, what is it? What is it? And they pull it out and be like, shit, it's you. It's you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you, when I started doing stuff like that, people didn't call me immediately and say, oh my God, who are you? But when I called them, they said, may I ask what this is regarding? I'm looking to set up a meeting. Will they expect your call? And I'd say, I'm hoping so. Oh, why is that? I send them a light bulb. You're the guy. Oh my God. They take it to every meeting. And then you know what? There are other people they had large accounts. They were selling things worth $1 million of income or $100 million sale. And I would send them an 8-foot.
Is that a harpoon gun?
That's a harpoon. That's what you do when you're hunting whales.
Nice.
And so how many times people get a whale harpoon in the mail? It tends to not get lost with. Be like, listen, I want you to get this. Some people go spend $10,000 a month on social media to talk to a bunch of people they shouldn't talk to. And I can do 50 of those. I send 50 of those at the 50 best prospects that I curated for fit, for comfort, for whatever. Who do you think wins? And by the way, you come on social media and you get your customer. Congratulations. Because when I sell mine, I've curated them so I know I can add value. So somebody adds $5, $10, $15 million to their net worth. And when we're done, I say, how did we do? They go, man, I cannot believe this. And I say, who do you want to send some harpoons to? They don't go, well, let me think about it. The people bring out their phones and they're like going through the letters. Oh, no, this guy's better. They call me up like, listen, referrals are hard when you suck and you're getting them for you because you're starving. And referrals are easy when people want to help their friends. So I send stupid things to people. This is a child's book. You send a book, and I send out books. I do all kinds of stuff. But so I worked with Tony, and I was thankful for Tony. When this book came out, I had him sign 1,000 books so that the first week he'd get on the bestseller list, and I had some credit. I owed him one, and I wanted him to owe me one. So I bought 1,000 of them. He signed the stickers. And if I send you a Tony Robbins book signed, you're like, you got one of those? That always helped. But no one ever read that book. It's too many damn pages. You could put $50 bill on page 50 of a nonfiction book, and you can come back 100 years later and get all the $50 back. You can't.
Yeah, that's right.
But with Stu's on the call, what I like about Stu's, it's like a 1-sentence cartoon. Like they can read one sentence. They're like, oh, hey. So I like that. Now I want you to get this thing. So Stu, I'm a fan. I have all your books, and we're scheduled for an appointment. I appreciate you reaching out. I like kids' books. Why? I can read a kid's book in 2 minutes. But instead, so Kids' books that are successful are aimed at parents who need the message. And we read them because we know we need the message. We hope to not screw up our kids, so we tell them this. This book is an entrepreneur book. There once was Garrett seed. And I planted it, and people said it wouldn't come up, and it wouldn't come up, and it wouldn't come up, and it wouldn't come up. And the guy works, and he works, and one day it came up, but it didn't come up, and then it come up, and everyone said it's never going to come up. And then he still did the work, and then one day it came up. Now, you don't see the end of this, but I put a picture on every page, and then on every page I customize it, and I cross out a carrot seed, and I name the name of the company, and I write all over this, and I don't have my assistant do it, and I don't have a bureau. I do it myself. So they go, "You did that yourself?" And I'll be like, "Do you think anyone else has my doctor writing? I may not have been a doctor, but I went to doctor writing school. Yes, it's my writing." And they go, "I cannot believe you did all that." I look for gifts that are personal, they're meaningful, they're unexpected. They don't know it's coming. They're like, "I appreciate the work. I appreciate the size. I appreciate that no one else can do that." I write a note, and on that note, this is my work, 6 years with studying Dr. Robert Cialdini as one of the Cialdini CMCTs, trainers in the country.
Influence, great book.
Yeah, so I took it, but instead of knowing about it, I mastered it. And I said, like, what? It's a person that I want to get at. Russell Brunson is an online marketer. Funnel. And so this is what I'm sending to him. I'm one of the owners of the Field of Dreams. So, I'm giving him 2 nights to stay in that nice little house and bring his family. And John Rulin, the giftology guy, you know what? He's getting one of these. And Pete Vargas from Grant Cardone's Speak Thing, I'm giving him a night. And Roland Frazier's getting one. You know what? I put it in plastic to make it substantive, and then I fill it with confetti, and then I put it in a box that has some branding. Like, well, I wonder what that is. And when they open it up, blue crap flies all over, and then I write a letter. And that letter, it's not just the joke. It's not just the visual. It's not sending people expensive things or anything. It's who you put in. If you just send a gift and there's not context, it's bribery. I'm saying I'm trying to buy you. That isn't it. I want to look at someone I'm going to be a partner with. I'm going to serve. I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'm going to make a bunch of money making them a bunch of money. And then what I look at is I say, using the laws of influence, liking from Cialdini, I say, where are we the same? Where are we similar? And then underneath that, I say, what do I respect about this person? What inspires me about him? What can I look for those of Christian faith? I think of the scripture, Philippians 4:8, like whatever's good, whatever's just, think on these things. I'm like, what is praiseworthy? What not suck up Eddie Haskell kids? There was a show called Leave It to Beaver. No, what I say, hey, no sucking up. What, when I read about them, do I think is magnificent? What wants me to be better? What do I want to learn from them? And then I tell my face. I take it and I put in writing. I say, you know what? I originally got on here because I was looking for entrepreneurs because I am one. And I saw that we went to the same school, so I researched, more. And I was stunned to find out that you did this. But even more important, I cannot believe how much money and how much time you've given to feed the children. That's amazing. And I got to step up my game. I am writing this letter, and I've sent you this package because I'd like to find a way to help you help more people. And I got a couple ideas. I know you're busier than all get out, impossible to get in front of. Do you have 9 minutes on your way to or from commute to work, or while you're waiting for the jet, to have a conversation? If it doesn't make sense, I won't bug you ever again. And then I go, P.S., I made this thing for you. And then instead of cheaping out, when I was dumb, I would buy something great and I would wrap it like cheap. But the journey is part of it. Now I put it in the right box and I put the right stuff to make it festive. And then instead of sending out, and this is not a thing I did forever, there's a time you work on budgets and you think, well, I'm on budgets, what can I do? And the answer is spend all that you can. instead of getting the thing at dollar store, I'm like, say to my assistant, get the best paper that you feel guilty if you rip it. I want it to be crisp and I want it to be beautiful. And when they just hold it, it's like there's magic in this. And then I want a bow on it that's crisp, and I want a ribbon, and I want to pack this respect. I want to send it FedEx. It comes in, and part of that came from the guy from Marketing Outrageous. His kid is the manager, the coach of the Miami Heat, John Spoelstra. John Spoelstra had to sell tickets for a team that sucked, the Nets. And so he had to get their attention. So he says, first, I put all this stuff in a FedEx box that was a triangle, because nobody ever gets those blueprint boxes. And they're about this big. Then he said, then I put a rubber chicken in it. Then I put a letter attached. He said, the FedEx said important, got it to him. Nobody screwed with it. Then when they opened it up, there was the chicken. And it'd be like, what the hell is that? Now we have to open that letter. When they opened the letter, then he made his thing and he sold. I said, that makes sense to me. So I get an idea from John Spoelstra, but he's not the only person with ideas. So then I say, what magic will I do? And it could be I send bobbleheads, and it could be I send, have you ever seen the TV show Ballers?
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Yes. You ought to be on it.
I love this show Ballers and it's not on anymore, but I bought all of Dwayne. I think Dwayne Johnson is magnificent.
Yeah.
Women love him. Men want to be him. The guy wins at everything, except for the show Black Adam. Black Adam, he had a turd too. From now on, he's like, what's the secret to his success? He goes, well, I'm very thankful that not every one of my shows is Black Adam.
His football league isn't so successful either.
That'll be the next one. So we'll see. So here's the point of this. At the end of that show, they had an auction. And I bought every one of those magnificent suits.
Oh, God.
I had 56 of them. And I was going to tie them into the launch of Black Adam. And then I thought, I should probably see it first. And when I fell asleep owning everything he had, I was like, we are not tying to the Black Adam. But I will tell you, I got a friend that's going through a major, that had the right size of shoulders. And he has a weight loss thing he's really going after. His birthday's October 21st. And this is Dwayne Johnson's suit from the Golden Globes. You can see it right there. There's the little embroidery. And, on October 21st, that jacket's going to show up. And, sometimes the greatest life insurance guy was Ben Feldman, and he would send a shoe to somebody and say, I just wanted to get my foot in the door. And then so what I did is I bought all of his shoes. So I have 39 pairs of his shoes. And I got this camouflage one, and I've got his, like fancy footwear and his blue suede shoes. So I'll send one and saying, I'm sending you this shoe to get your attention. It's the biggest shoe you've seen. It's from the biggest star in the universe. And it's to tell you something that you may hear that you couldn't get in front of people during COVID because nothing was happening, but the problem was you couldn't get their attention. You're reading my letter. I have your attention. My question is, should I keep it? I'd like to show you how you don't have to quit because of the pandemic. You don't have to quit because of the economic cycle. You don't have to quit because of inflation or interest rates or whatever the thing is that we cry about and stop working. The best time to attack the market is when things suck because everyone else quits. The big guy's got a problem because he has a thing built for scale. The little guy just needs to take business away from other people. And when times are bad, the big guy quits and the little guy can kick his ass. David beats Goliath in the tough time, not the good time. You build it, you get market share, you build. So I say, let's double down. So I write that letter and then I say, take the meeting and I'll give you the choice of sending you the other shoe, which I'll do either way, but I'll also help you rewrite the letter if you want so you can get in front of who you want to. And so I do these stupid things. I also, I find that when you help them, go ahead.
Just that last part is the part that even I would miss. It's like repurpose that gift that you gave to them to somebody else. And so you're writing that letter. So you're giving value first before you're getting anything from them. And then the spirit of reciprocity kicks in. Wonderful.
The influence laws are always first. You give first, you like first, you serve first. You give and you serve and you thank and you appreciate. You ignore the bad things. You don't decide. You don't worry about getting customers. You decide first who you want. And then you say, will they want me back? Are they penalized for not getting this? So I'll throw one other thing, and then we should probably call it a day. But I want to throw this last idea. When we talk to people, I don't know, how many of you are fathers? Do you have kids? You want your life and you want to do stuff, but if you're a typical father, what you hope is that your kids' lives will be even better than yours are. That's what most of us want. And I find that when you can help a child, when you can do something for the child, when you can help a grandfather, help a grandmother, help a grandchild, whenever we can help somebody's progeny, you get paid twice. So I've done things. I got a client who's got a kid that's probably a top 20 football player in his grade level, junior in America. And he's not getting the attention that he could or should. I think people don't believe how fast he is because he's white. They're like, that can't be. But I went out and I networked to all these people that I have connections to help him get looks from the top 10 wide receiver schools in America. I do that because I care about the kid and I want to be on the sideline when he's an NFL player someday. So it's not all like, I'm abundant. But here's what I know. When I open the door for that, when I help a kid get an internship, when I help them get into a college, when I help them think about the right school or recommend things based on what I know from my journey with my own kids, I help a kid and I help a parent, and that lasts longer. So I get books and I have them signed. A lot of times I buy them from Premier, but like this is Reese Witherspoon, and I send a kid that book. When there's a new baby or grandchild, or this is Ellie Raceman, the Olympic athlete, about gymnastics. And you know what? I went out and curated books of every color. I have a new nephew that was born a week ago. His name is Quincy Wellstone Woojin Schaff. His mother is Korean. And what occurred to me when his sister was born is all my favorite books were all people that were white. And my progeny, my family, isn't. Now, there was a time I didn't think about the problems of people that were yellow, black, or red, or other things. Mm-hmm. And then the news, I'd be like, that's horrible. And now those people are my family. And then I'm really pissed off. And so we got to end this stupid stuff. So you think different when people are family. What I found is I was like, I'm going to curate and have books of people of color to make it safe, to expand and to say, we love you how you are, not how we are. We love you because of what you are. I do that for my clients. I want them to recognize and give them role models and experiences. There's a kid in high school or college, and I'll be like, there's a kid that's dyslexic, and obviously, like, I have CEOs or whatever that are dyslexic. I would say, here's the person. You can be anything that you want. And I find that when I am conspiring, the way to create relationship in liking is to look for where we're the same. It's to look for things that are praiseworthy. And then it's to look for how can I cooperate? How can I steward the life that I've earned through my trials and my victories? And I have lots of both. Sometimes we focus on the victories when what the thing we have is to give them admonition and how to minimize that. Those are the things that matter the long term. So I don't know if that helps as an end, but that's what I think.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, talk about just, it's like you're doing it for the right reasons, creative for the right reasons. It's
let's make sure that we don't embellish too much. I do things for the right reasons. but it's not because I'm a saint. It's because it works. I'm very utilitarian. I want to be a good person. I'm as superficial as anyone else. You know what I found out? The right way, the just way, the service way is the best policy. There are some jackasses out in the world that run the world. They're few. Most of the people of power, most of the people that made their wealth are the good guys. They got it. I've seen enough of the good guys win that said, I'm a pirate reformed. Like the people I've served, and I've seen them that pulled me away and said, don't do that. Like, no. Like, if you see anything that looks good, it's because somebody breathed in, maybe you could up it. And that's what I tried to do. I want to write a book right now. I'm hoping I'll do it with Bob Cialdini called Salesperson, lowercase sales, uppercase person. Let's put the person back in sales in a world where social media and technology and Autobots and AI and all these things, ChatGPT. I wrote a song the other day. I put in to ChatGPT, I said, write me a song, because I saw this meme, write me a song about a self-driving car that leaves, a self-driving truck that leaves the cowboy. And it's called My Self-Driving Truck Done Left Me. Like, listen, that was written by AI. That was written by AI with an AI, with Suno band about something like, that's the world we're in, where there'll be no people. What we want to do is put people in. And if you're not going to the top of the market, you will be replaced by automation.
Well,
so I've been asked to put in some information. I do some training, and we like it. Our next big event's coming up in the end of August, but there's two ways to get a hold of us. You can go look at our website, and that's for an event itself, and that's on August 27th and 28th. It is the 5-Tool Sales School. You don't have to be a baseball person to be a fan, but it's kind of for smart people. So do become a baseball fan. My other program will be in October, and it's the Cialdini 2-Day. And the Cialdini 2-Day, it's one thing to read the book or pretend to have it because it's in your house. It's another thing to see how to use it. If you're interested, link in with me at LinkedIn, Tommy Schaff on LinkedIn, and that's probably the best way. I'm really thankful to meet all of you. I want to thank Joe for his Joe didn't do all the fancy tricks that I do. He had an earnest video. He knew and watched a video that I was somewhere else, and I trusted him. And while we're doing magic tricks and creative things, start with truth and be Joe-like. Be an honest, straight shooter, good person that wants to add value for his people. I'm really taken by you, Joe. I spent some time with them. And I'm here because I've enjoyed Chris just meeting you, and Dan. We've had some fun together too. We're here because of Joe. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you.
That's how we live our lives. Be like Joe. That's the whole thing.
Except for that means that you're going to fall asleep while you're talking, apparently, because sometimes you got to pick your Joe.
That's right. That's right. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on here today. And is Chris Stone not awesome with his production value? I mean,
I said Chris. I said him. I said we just met him.
In the words of Tommy Schaff, this was a turd. So thank you.
Well, listen, for all those who stuck
my
around,
autobiography.
We really appreciate you. Stick around just for 1 second after we get down here, Tommy. But I wish nothing but good things to happen to all of you for the rest of your lives. Eat well, live long, and prosper. Finish strong today. Go get them.